According to the rulebook of the Copenhagen Individual Debate Public Speaking Championships, contestants may use the same persuasive speech if it is presented during the same calendar year. We are, however, banned from plagiarism. Though, theoretically speaking, if there was an offender, they would be disqualified for overstepping. I would even go so far as to personally deem them a copycat for their crime. But as bad as plagiarism is, and as bad as I'm admittedly making it sound, its harms are, at the very least, isolated to the individual and their coaches. The issue here lies with plagiarism in the real world. Its harms are so widespread, you might even call it plagiarism. Though, I argue that contagion isn't the disease in of itself, rather a symptom of a broader problem, the dramatized presentation of stories in the media. Sensationalism, the problem's formal title, is when so-called journalists report articles titled, "Why are Gen Zers like Millie Bobby Brown aging so badly?" and for every action Trump makes to be breaking news or a new development and a read now. We all know that none of these headlines are true. They're misleading and oftentimes damaging to media credibility. Yet, despite their obvious harms and while cheating contestants are penalized, the media rewards such journalists. I understand why, to some degree. Maybe sensationalism's impact is too vague or an overreach. But overall, I digress. So I'm going to tell you a story about an online game and how the prospect of media over-glorification is basically spoon-fed. But not to felons looking to commit a crime, not to thieves trying to rob a bank, but to a far more vulnerable demographic, children. And in this case, it's lethal. The Blue Whale Challenge set 50 tasks over 50 days. Now, the first few tasks were fairly trivial, wake up in the middle of the night or watch a scary film, but day by day they grew more graphic. The BBC reported in January 2019 that day 50 had even asked players to kill themselves. But here's where the challenge really spirals out of control. Rena, a teenager, posted a selfie and committed suicide the next day. Supposedly, her death was part of the challenge, and soon teenagers Angelina and Diana had followed in her footsteps, citing the name Rena in their final messages like a claim to fame. But lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, the scariest part of this tale is that the Blue Whale Challenge never existed. Police investigations found that, at most, it was horror stories exchanged by users on internet threads. They also found that Rena's suicide had nearly nothing to do with the challenge. A stronger correlation was drawn between her and her internalized mental health struggles. So, therefore, Angelina and Diana were victims of dramatized headlines, not a mythical suicide challenge. It was fear-mongering and alleged correlation, sensationalism, that propelled the Blue Whale Challenge into the algorithms of their phones. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a very real problem. Sensationalism purposefully blurs the lines between correlation and causation, but as scary as it is, its unintended side effect is even more dangerous, and that's when accountability can no longer be distinguished. But both acts result in harm, one contained, the other contagious. And if society is going to punish cheating contestants so severely, we cannot just uphold a double standard and simultaneously permit sensationalism. Hence, if we proclaim disqualification as the cure to plagiarism, then we should regulate the media, or we're no better off than the boy who cried wolf. So, I propose a three-part plan to reduce sensationalism's harms. First, online content, broadly encompassing verified broadcasts and social media posts, need to be better regulated. Regulation, depending on the level of authority, may range from a legal mandate to only being able to broadcast expert verified content, but at its core, places a general blanket requirement to explicitly moderate, especially if this content is proven false, a deepfake, or sensitive. But then again, drawing back to the Blue Whale Challenge, if posts about Rena had even slightly adhered to, say, WHO guidelines, then the outcomes could have been better mitigated, or, in its best case, avoided. Second, then, a public commitment should be made by news outlets against sensationalism. Clearer, more public efforts must be made to withstand media bias, as this then sets a precedent to what content is or isn't acceptable. A good example is the Associated Press, who set the bar when they defied President Trump's request to label the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. Other recognized reporting outlets who wish to uphold this level of objectivity must therefore adopt a similar sentiment and take direct, quantifiable action against public influence. But third, and lastly then, graphic details should not be spotlighted in the media. In the context of attempting suicide, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention highlight that the media should emphasize the positive, lived aspects of the individual and exclude to a degree the methods used by the disease. Fine, I concede. Perhaps restricting details from the public does slightly infringe on the freedom of speech, but the same general public who are insufficiently equipped to comprehend such information are at a great risk of viewing bodily harm as a positive or suicide as a constructive solution if we continue to project graphic details on the media. Governments must therefore prioritize public safety by applying caution towards how they present suicide. It is time for us to recognize the influence of the media on the public. Angelina and Diana are two of many children who became stuck in a vicious online echo chamber. And although we cannot save them, we can save other future victims of unvalidated reporting and unregulated commentary, or every day we allow the media to slowly kill. Just as this competition punishes plagiarism and dishonesty, so too then must governments. Thank you.